Good morning. Many thanks for tuning into our webinar today. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Zara Mia and I am a Member Services Coordinator here at Beta and I look after the business support providers. I would like to make a very warm welcome to our speakers this morning, Leanne Johnson-Robson and Jack Cooper of RT7. Before I hand you over to speakers, I will just go through some housekeeping with you. To enable you to hear the presentation clearly, everyone apart from the speakers have been placed on mute and the event is being recorded. Following the presentation, there will be a Q&A session. To enable you to put questions forward, please hover your cursor to the bottom of the screen and a toolbar will appear which includes a Q&A option. Select this and type your question in the box provided and I will pose your question to Leanne and Jack at the end of their presentation. I will now pass you over to our speakers who will provide you with all the information needed to allow you to optimize your business for special events on Amazon. So over to you, Leanne and Jack.
Cool, thanks Zara. Good morning everyone, welcome. So in today's session, as Zara mentioned, we're going to be talking through key events and special dates throughout the calendar year, but specifically Q4, spurred on this topic of discussion. We think there's going to be some really useful content there that you can hopefully take on board and implement over the coming months for your Amazon business. So we've broken it down into three main sections here. There's the lead-in period, then obviously the key event period, and then the lead-out period as well. I'd say the lead-in and lead-out can sometimes be forgotten and not have much attention and focus to. So I'm going to run through some reasons why they're so important to consider, and we'll move on with that now. So just looking here, key dates to Diarise. Firstly, August 3rd is slightly behind us, so I hope you would have already been aware of this date, but that was when the holiday promotion submissions opened in Seller Central and Vendor Central. Now coming up, we have September 17th. For those that are selling in the US, this is a key date for you to ensure that you meet that deadline for any 7-day deals, best deals or lightning deals in Australia and in the USA. Also looking then towards October 8th, which will be more relevant to those that are selling in the UK and the EU as well. That is when your deadline falls to submit the 7-day deals, best deals and lightning deals as well. Then moving on, so in terms of the fulfillment side, inbound shipping cutoff for vendors, you'll be looking at between October 21st to the November 17th. So really important to note that one as well. And that will apply to the EU and the UK. And for those that are on FBA, important to have the date of that key date as well in mind. And the cutoff is the 5th of November there as well. For November 19th, early bird Black Friday deals begin. And then moving on to November 26th, Black Friday deals will begin and the promotions will end on November 28th. That is the key dates around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And then of course we've got the busy Christmas trading period and the final delivery dates for the festive shopping would be December 22nd and 23rd. Now throughout the year, there's lots of key event dates that I think need to be planned for, budgeted for, and it's important to sit down and acknowledge these when planning your budgeting across the year, especially how you allocate advertising spend across different dates and also the relevancy of your products for these different events. So, we find in January, there'll be specific, the new year, new you, there'll be specific products that would be more suited to that period and that time. So really important to note these down and talk through those internally and with any support that you may have around you to ensure that you have a good strategy in place throughout the calendar year. Cool, so looking at the lead-in period first. It's important to put yourself in the mind of the Amazon shopper. And for those that are researching, maybe that don't have that intention to purchase your brand and they're looking more for generic search terms, the lead-in period is a really key time to start to ramp up your promotion strategy, your advertising strategy within the PPC, targeting certain keywords to ensure that your brand is front and center, is being noticed and begin that process of during that research phase, allowing new to brand purchases. And you can track these kind of metrics as well within Amazon. So it's really key to start to build that brand awareness during this time. Now, what is important to have in place, firstly, the strategy, but also your Amazon listings. So are all of your titles, bullet points, A+ content optimized? Are you utilizing all of the features available to you on those Amazon listings? Amazon's algorithm will be looking at these points in order to rank your products accordingly for different search terms. And we see very commonly that the content within the bullet points may be too short, or within the A+ content may not be utilized. And this is a really key area that's going to help to cement the ranking of your listing and drive the growth of your listing over time. Also, brand store as well can be used strategically as a landing page for paid traffic. So it's important that if you are a brand registered seller on Amazon, you have brand store is free to build, regardless of whether you're on vendor or seller central. So utilize this feature, just further cement your brand and build your strong brand presence on the channel. I think another one that I just wanted to highlight is the inventory planning. This is one that catches out, many brands, and can be very difficult now, given the current state of play with Brexit and what we're seeing with high shipping charges, delays. And I know it's a real nightmare out there at the moment, but the main thing is to plan as much as you can on the inventory side of things, because Amazon will slow down, especially when it comes to processing their FBA stock and how long that takes. The lead times do lengthen. So be prepared for that and ensure that you get that stock into FBA early if you can, and have the correct amount of units, expected units to sell over that period to match your planned promotion. Now, another thing to note as well is perhaps it's not the right thing for your business to engage in these different events. Is discounting part of your overall strategy? You may want to maintain an RRP and a premium price and not enter into a discount environment. And that's okay. And that needs to be recognized and considered. Also, I've touched on this before as well, but around the inventory that you have available, if you don't have sufficient, then it's going to damage your listings if they run out of stock. And that's another really key thing to note, is it's better for you to have a number of units in stock on a certain listing and keep that listing in stock, so that when that inbound stock populates the listing, it will maintain its ranking. Amazon penalizes listings very heavily for running out of stock. So this is a big red flag for us, is really try to avoid running out of stock where you can. Also, do you have additional budget to spend on driving traffic to your deals? This is something that needs to be considered and budgeted for early on at the start of the year, while you're planning all of these events for your Amazon business. Over to you, Leanne.
Cool. So if you are going to participate, you need to consider which options are available to you. And so the ones that we've highlighted here are those that are part of the official promotions that run particularly over high event dates like Black Friday and Cyber Monday that get the most visibility. This is not all the promotional types available. However, it's really important to note that if you're not running one of these, normal promotions do not get included on event pages. And so they don't nearly get as much visibility and need to be boosted considerably with advertising spend. But here we have the key deal types. So you'll notice, and we will share this deck with everyone afterwards, you will notice that across the board, minimum discounts of at least 15% are seen. So it's something to factor in when you're deciding if you're going to be participating in the event period. What we do see, though, is over high demand dates such as Black Friday and Cyber Monday, for the 7-day deals and the lightning deals, the minimum discounts do get increased. So we would typically see minimums of at least 20% on 7-day deals, and often as much as 25 to 30% on lightning deals. For sellers, important to remember that you have to qualify for 7-day deals and lightning deals, and you need to go to the promotions dashboard or deals dashboard in your seller account and look at the recommendations. If a product is not appearing on your recommendations list, it does not qualify for the deal. And therefore you would need to look at other options such as coupons or vouchers, prime exclusive discounts, or just normal standalone promotions. Cool. So Jack already touched briefly on the inventory piece, but for all FBA sellers on this call and even vendors, you'll be aware that the state of the Amazon fulfillment centers as of late has been quite challenging, to say the least, and a lot of restrictions are being placed, in particular for FBA sellers, on SKU level quantity restrictions. And so what we just wanted to highlight here is the need to start looking at your IPI score as soon as possible. So your IPI score is your inventory performance index, for those who may not be familiar with it yet, and it looks at 4 core metrics: your excess inventory, your sell-through rate, your stranded inventory, and your in-stock rate. And having a look at these metrics will be an indicator to you as to how you can improve your score. If you want to follow the appeal process to have the restrictions removed off your SKUs or increased for any of your SKUs, your IPI score needs to be at least 500 points, or Amazon will not consider your appeal. One of the main things that catches people out is actually the excess inventory. Most people follow their in-stock rates and they keep an eye on their stranded inventory, but excess inventory is one that has quite a lot of bearing. And there is the opportunity to improve the score in the lead-in period by running early bird deals or coupons, or even outlet deals if you're heavily excess on specific products. The reality for this period, though, is that for a lot of sellers, to keep their products in stock, what you're most likely going to have a look at is doing smaller shipments more frequently. So plan in to be sending in stock every 2 to 3 weeks to be able to keep that in-stock rate up and still adhere to the SKU level restrictions that are in place. Right, then again, something Jack just touched on, but optimizing your brand store over deals periods is super important. You may already be familiar with the fact that there is the option to create a deals page on your store. The only requirement is that it has a deals widget on it in order to be labeled as a deals page. What we do strongly recommend, though, is to have a product grid in place on that page as well. And the reason is your deals widget will only pull in official promotions. So if you're running supplementary promotional activity or coupons alongside core deals such as the 7-day deals, having the product grid allows you to showcase all of the offers that you have available. The other thing we do strongly recommend is to do this in advance and use the scheduling tool that Amazon has available, but schedule it to publish at least 3 days prior to the event period. The reason for this is there will be instances where it gets rejected for any number of reasons, and you may need to resubmit, which can take up to 48 hours to then be published. The deals page will also influence part of your campaign strategy, so it's really important just to get that sorted out ahead of time. Right, so when we look at campaign management, first of all, campaign management in the lead-in period. What a lot of sellers do or vendors do is, because conversion does drop quite dramatically in this lead-in period, they tend to reduce their spend. And the problem is you need to be part of the conversation. So if you're not spending any money on advertising over this important researching period, you won't have the audience to retarget later on, yes, but also customers may be drawn to products that have had more visibility over this researching period. So we do specifically encourage increasing sponsored brands and sponsored display, which are your main awareness drivers. But you need to accept the fact that your ROAS will be significantly lower in those 2 to 4 weeks. But the idea is that you will make up any of that ROAS loss over the event period itself. And then a lot of work goes into this period. So while you're managing your campaigns over the lead in to build that awareness, you also need to be preparing your campaigns for the main event. And so some of the things that we suggest, we've listed out here. So as I mentioned, with that deals page on the store, you can submit sponsored brands deals that have deals language in them. However, they have to be pointing to the deals page on your store, and that page obviously needs to be live. So it's something just to factor in on your timing. Dedicated sponsored brand ads work really well, but they do get heavily moderated. So we do suggest submitting them early and then simply pausing them and unpausing them on the launch day of the deals. Doing a major harvest of converting terms and negating non-converting terms, it's a really good time to do this because you don't want to be wasting spend over a high demand period where the cost per click is much higher and the competition is heavy. So getting through this auditing piece is really important. We also suggest taking note of what your current bids and daily budgets are at, because you will be adjusting these quite aggressively over the event period, and you're going to need to set your campaigns back in the lead out. So having an idea of where you started is good for down the line. And then the last thing, just for those who aren't aware, there's new budgeting rules features that have gone live in the AMS over the last couple of weeks. And what this allows you to do is actually schedule your budgets in advance and apply boosting percentages. So if, for example, you know your deals are going to launch on a Saturday, for argument's sake, and there's not going to be someone in your office who can up all your bids and budgets, you can put this in place in advance as well. So then we move on to the main event. So the main event is around optimizing existing campaigns, leveraging awareness, and reaching new audiences. So launch day. The reality of Amazon is things very rarely will launch without any issues. So right at the top of the list for your launch day checklist needs to be to check that your deals have actually launched and are visible on the front end. Just because a deal or a promotion is showing as running in the back end doesn't necessarily mean that it's visible to the customer. And so you want to be doing a check in both places that those deals are visible as they should be. Then you need to activate the dedicated sponsored brand ads that you set up in advance. And then the campaign management piece really comes in, and we'll go into a bit more detail on the campaigns. But you need to consider that the cost of advertising, because of how competitive these periods are, we see bids increasing by up to 300% over major events. So bids that were suitable for getting visibility in the lead-in period are probably going to be far too low. So you've got to boost these up quite significantly. And then ensure that your out-of-budget alerts are enabled. The first couple of days of a big event period, it's very easy for you to underestimate how much budget your campaigns are going to actually need. And so having out-of-budget alerts enabled will allow you to correct those daily budgets and increase them more frequently than just checking on them a couple of times through the day. Right, sponsored brands. So sponsored brands is all around owning your aisle. And this is probably the most important part of your event period strategy is actually the use of sponsored brands. So there's a couple of best practice things that we've included here. One of which we haven't touched on too much yet is the use of sponsored brand video. If you don't have any video assets in your catalog yet, you still have time to create some video. We have seen significantly higher engagement on video ads, and Amazon actually indicates on their side that they see over 200% higher engagement on a sponsored brand ad than a normal sponsored brand video ad than a normal sponsored brand ad. Ensure that you've got headlines that are endearing or have a strong call to action. As I mentioned, you can use deals related headlines as well if you're featuring products that have promotions attached to them. If you see that you're not getting the kind of engagement that you wanted, you can change those headlines. That's something really to keep an eye on. Use spotlight ads. This is probably one of the most underutilized types of sponsored brand ads. A spotlight ad is driving all of that traffic to 3 category pages as opposed to 3 products. So all engagement that comes through a spotlight ad drives traffic through to your store. Then we want to be making use of custom images within the creatives. This again drives engagement and increasing bids. Sponsored brand ads do have higher cost per clicks than the other ad types, but this is really a space that you want to be competitive in. So increase those bids as much as you need to. And then the last point from us is don't be afraid to pause low performing ads. If you have an ad that is just spending a lot, but not generating any revenue, switch it off. Rather funnel that revenue into something that is going to convert for you. Sponsored display is the next thing. So sponsored display, quite underutilized, I think still. A lot of sellers, when they hear display, are kind of off-put because it's historically not a very high converting channel for a lot of businesses. But within Amazon sponsored display module, they have got quite a lot of options available in terms of targeting. So one of the big ones that's come through is the views remarketing. And so if you've been particularly active in the lead-in period, this is a great opportunity to remarket to customers who viewed your products when there's a deal running over this period. The other thing we can do through sponsored display is audience targeting, and specifically in-aisle audience targeting. So you can go quite granular within this in-aisle, but you can put your product in front of customers who Amazon has determined are looking for that product type or have an interest in that product. We've seen really good results coming through from sponsored display, so it's definitely something worth considering in your strategy. All right, then some other best practice tactics that we have established through the years. So monitoring budgets throughout the day. This is really essential. As I said, it's very difficult to determine, particularly at the outset, how quickly you're going to run through your budget. It's also important to consider that data over this period is extremely delayed. So there will be an element of trust in conversion, because you will have instances where the system is showing, for example, that you've only spent £10, but you're out of budget and your budget was £50. Unfortunately, the AMS just does not seem to be able to handle the amount of traffic and activity that runs through it on the major event days. And so you do need to just allow for that 6-hour delay. Our recommendation, though, is if you feel that your deal is a strong one and that your targeting is on point, keep pushing that budget up and then just review it as you go. If you're running lightning deals, these obviously run for only a very limited time, but because there is a bit of a delay within the AMS, we do suggest starting to boost your ads at least 1 to 2 hours before it actually goes live, so that it's already running optimally at the point that your lightning deal launches. Daily checks that the deals are running. As I said earlier with the launch day, unfortunately, things do go wrong. Deals get suppressed, buy boxes get lost. You do need to be doing daily checks to ensure you are not driving traffic to deals that are supposed to be on promotion, but the deal's not actually live. Adjust your bidding strategies to up and down bidding if you're not getting the visibility that you want. This also allows your bids to be dynamically increased where necessary. So if you are being on the conservative side with your CPCs, this will still get you some good visibility. And then I already touched on sponsored brand ads and the sponsored display, but this is where you really want to be funneling a lot of your spend. Boost all of your bids across your sponsored brands and your in-aisle sponsored display targeting. All right, and then the lead out. So the lead out is commonly known for the halo effect that we do see, but this is typically the 2 to 4 week period after an event. We're going to talk first about the general lead out period, and then we're going to touch on how the lead out differs when it comes to Q4 and that post Cyber Monday lead out period. So first of all, post event action points. The analysis of performance, you need to establish if what you were doing worked or if it didn't work and what you'd maybe want to do differently. But what we do recommend is that you wait for 14 days after the event period ends, just simply because that is the attribution window within the AMS. So for a true reflection of how your campaign activity performed over that period, it's best to wait the 14 days. Replenishment of inventory. Here, particularly for sellers who are using Amazon's inventory planning tool in their seller account, be wary that your inventory recommendations post-event will not be particularly accurate because they will be inflated by the deals period sales. Updating of the store. A lot of brands forget to do this. The deals end and the store remains static with a deals page that has nothing on it. So do remove the deals page and any deals related graphics that you had placed on your store. And then last but not least, post-event deals. If you didn't generate as much from the deals period as you were hoping, and you're potentially sitting with excess inventory, or you just want to capitalize on the halo effect that does follow this period, consider running smaller post-event offers. Your audience that you can retarget with these offers will be significantly larger because of how much you have spent over the period. So there is definitely an opportunity there. Right, then some of the campaign management tactics that we recommend. So reducing your bids and daily budgets. What we often see is, particularly the first 2 days after a deals window ends, the cost per clicks remain quite high and the campaigns continue to spend just not at the same return. So bringing these bids and budgets back in line with where they were pre-event is really important. Pausing all of your deal-centric ads. Obviously, if the deals are no longer live, you need to remove the deals messaging. And then ramping up of the audience targeting. So that's your in-aisle audience targeting and your retargeting. Super important to boost those over this period. There's a lot of people that miss out, but the shopping mentality lives on. So you want to take advantage of that. And then putting your bidding strategies to down only on campaigns that are not performing very well. You can also, or we do recommend increasing your top of search placement for products that performed particularly well. And the reason for this is that high performing period would have boosted the organic visibility as well. And you want to be hitting it from all sides and giving it that top of search guaranteed placement. Now, the lead out for Q4 is a little different. So here, obviously, post Cyber Monday, we're in the Christmas or festive shopping peak period, which runs until the final delivery date, which depending on your fulfillment method, will probably be around the 22nd or the 23rd of the month. So how we recommend that you look at the festive peak is that it's a secondary, smaller event period. So ordinarily post, say, Prime Day, for example, we would say adjust your bids and budgets back to pre-events period. In this instance, or over this period, we do suggest being more competitive in that space. So reducing it in line rather with the market CPCs or the recommendations that you can see in your AMS. And dropping your budgets slightly, but not bringing them back to that pre-event. So it's kind of at 75% as opposed to 100%, which was the period you just came out of. This is also a good time where you can run additional smaller deals if you have the inventory to do so. And then in that instance, we would suggest running additional sponsored brand ads as you did over the main event period with some deals language. This is a great time to be running retargeting. Your audience after Black Friday and Cyber Monday will be significantly larger than any other time of the year. So you really want to boost this activity and drive it forward. And then the in-aisle audience targeting, particularly if you're in any market that falls within that realm of gifting, a great opportunity to target the gifting market. Just one thing we want to put on everyone's radar is to be wary of the bidding rush. So this is the high browsing, low buying period in the morning. And so if you're slightly constrained on your budgets, what you want to do is hold back on your bids until after 11 a.m. and then start increasing them. And this will really help you stretch a limited budget a lot further. All right, then we have the festive peak lead out. Now, this is actually a very short period. It's the gap between your final delivery day, whatever date that would be for you, and the 26th of December. During that period, we suggest reducing your budgets and bids to at least 50% of their current levels. The reason for this is a lot of shoppers that are online over that period are looking for same day delivery because they're looking for last minute gifts. So that couple of days can really waste a lot of your budget, and it's better to just have very minimal activity running. But super important to remember to start increasing your bids again from the 26th. Although Boxing Day is not a major event period, with the increasing prevalence of Amazon gift vouchers, we've seen over the past couple of years, really quite a lot of traffic starting to come through from the 26th and then building into that new year, new you event period, which on Amazon is significantly large. And that is it for me.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you. I think you will all agree that was a very informative presentation, full of great advice and tips from both Leanne and Jack there. If you have any questions, please put them forward now and I will ask them for you. So we have had a few come through. First one, any advice to assist the increase in the inventory limits for FBA suppliers ahead of promotional activity?
Yeah, so that one, as I mentioned in the presentation, improving the IPI score is going to be the key thing there. If you have already lowered your excess inventory levels and you have got quite a good in-stock rate, your best opportunity is to open an appeal through Amazon support. And basically they allow you to write a business case as to why your restrictions should be lifted, and they will assess those on a case-by-case basis. If your IPI score is quite high, you have got a better probability of the restrictions being loosened. If your IPI score is very poor, unfortunately, you will probably have to, as I mentioned, consider doing much smaller shipments, but very frequently. It is obviously wildly inconvenient for people to do that, but in some cases that may be your only option.
Brilliant, thank you. What level of support does RT7Digital provide around key events?
Jack, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so anyone that we work with, any brands that we work with, would have a dedicated point person from our team that would be trained and upskilled around these key events. So we'd be able to offer advice, our recommendations, and work really alongside our clients to manage those the full period that we've put across. So right from the lead in all the way to the lead out, we would be able to manage that process alongside them, obviously with guidance around budgets that they have available, but we'd definitely bring forward our recommendations and what we thought would be the best practice approach.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got another one come through. Are there any restrictions applied to categories during Q4 and other event periods?
Yeah, so the main category that gets restricted over Q4 in particular is toys and games. So that category does not actually allow for new products to be submitted after the end of September. It becomes a fully gated category with an approval process. Outside of that, there's no other restrictions for Q4 or other event periods outside of the regular approval processes that are in place. So there are a lot of categories that already have limitations placed on them. So you would still need to adhere to those regardless of the time of the year.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And do you find that discounting is common across the brands during Q4?
That's actually quite a tricky one. We're starting to see a lot more brands make the decision not to be part of discounting. I think particularly with the cost of shipping, as it has been over the last year or so with COVID, there's not the same kind of margins available to sellers and vendors that they were in the past. So we are seeing less of a prevalence with participation. We do recommend, though, over really high demand periods, even if it's a small discount and unofficial promotion, to get slow moving products in particular to pick up some sales velocity. Obviously, if you have a very high selling product, it may not make sense for you to discount that, but new product launches and slow movers or soon to be discontinued items are really good candidates just to move the stock.
Brilliant, that's great. And that now brings us to the end of all the questions. The presentation and contact details will all be shared with you later this week. Again, many thanks to our speakers today and to you for all joining us this morning. Our next webinar sessions are taking place on the 21st of September with Stephen Richardson, that's Beta's marketing manager, where he will be going through the next quarterly market updates for members. And we also have an IOSH training course for executives and directors taking place on the 28th of September. To sign up to any of those events, please just visit our website and you can reserve your place. And details of all of our upcoming webinars can be found on our events page on our website. Thank you all again for attending today, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.